In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. This is my first Sunday back with all of you. Most of you probably know that I was away for basically a month, 4 Sundays in the Holy Land, visiting sites that many of which Jesus would have walked 2,000 years ago, and some older than that as well. When I arrived in Israel in mid-March, I was anticipating leaving behind cold, rainy New York. And I arrived into Israel and it started hailing on me. It was about 30 degrees. And the first experience I had in Jerusalem on this trip was, I kid you not, about an inch of hail on the ground as I struggled out to go and find a sandwich for dinner. It was not the beginning of the trip that I was anticipating. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I was anticipating a string of mountaintop moments on different mountains around the Holy Land. Now, I went 4 years ago as well, in 2018, with a group of pilgrims, many from this church. And I don't think any of us had been before when we went on that trip. And there is an expectation, I think, that all of us tend to have when you go on a pilgrimage or to a holy site. This is probably true of a vacation as well. You anticipate and assume that everything's going to be perfect. That when you arrive at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, it will become evident how present God is. In reality, when you arrive at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you encounter tour guides with those little flags and numerous people speaking different languages. And it can be very difficult at first to sort of wrap your head around the fact that you're not going to get a string of perfect mountaintop moments. Right? The mountaintop moment is Moses on the mountain when he clearly encounters God. The mountaintop moment is Jesus being transfigured. Peter and James and John and Andrew sort of standing off to the side, seeing Moses and Elijah and seeing clearly who Jesus is for the first time, and the voice from heaven, "This is my son," making it crystal clear. For that brief span of time, gave them total clarity. That's a mountaintop moment. And I was anticipating a string of these. What I learned in Israel was humility. In large part because nothing goes the way you want it to. And the things that you anticipate and plan for sometimes go completely haywire. And that's okay. One of the things I was looking forward to the most, there's this, and the group of pilgrims that joined me saw it from afar. There's a beautiful monastery built into the cliffside called St. George's, and it's in the Wadi Kelt. And I was privileged to be able to hike. I survived the hike down through the cliffs to the monastery where we were going to go in and see this amazing thing, which inside is even better. It was locked. The door was closed, and so we hiked on. The next day we hiked in the Wadi Kidron, which is an extension of the Kidron Valley. This is just me and my guide, and I have to say I'm lucky I survived that day. If you watch some of the videos, you may understand why. It was a little cliffy for my taste. But there's a monastery there called Mar Saba that nobody ever gets into. And we had no anticipation or expectation of ever getting into it, because my guide nor his father had ever gotten into it. And we got in. And I talked to a very eccentric Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox monk for about an hour, who explained to me all the problems about America, the Church of England, the Episcopal Church, Anglicans in general, Protestants, and just in general everybody. And then he led us into the church, which was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It was amazing. So I could go on endlessly about these different Holy Land stories and adventures. There were a lot of ups and downs. I tell this to you because every year, and I think this year in particular may be even more the case. I cannot imagine that I am the only one who entered Holy Week 2022 thinking, I really hope everything goes perfectly this year, and that this is that rekindling of all of our faith. We can come back together. No more TV monitors. No more locked church. 2 years ago, no church, Holy Week. Last year, strange TV monitors in church. This year, how does it start? I heard while I was away that my friend, who was the supply priest, had an adventure at least one Sunday with the microphone. And Carol knows this. How did it start for me? I went outside and the microphone fell on the ground and I was trampling all over it and almost fell over outside. And then our procession didn't exactly happen to plan. And I will say at the 8 o'clock service, at least at this one, the cock crowed at the right time. At the 8, the cock crowed at the wrong time. And so, okay, let's see what we're in store for as we move into Holy Week. As we do, and I really encourage you to take part in all of the rites of Holy Week, R-I-T-E-S. We kind of live into it in a new way, in a way that we don't the rest of the year. There's no substitute for taking part in the crowd as a group. You can read that, but when you're part of the group doing that, you have a different experience of what the Passion narrative from St. Luke feels like. There's no substitute for being in church on Maundy, Thursday, 7:30 p.m., or Good Friday at noon. We put a cross up. You can take the opportunity to kneel and come up and venerate. There's no substitute for some of these rites. On Easter Eve, the candle, when the fire, hopefully that goes well, that will be its own adventure. When we have a giant fire outside and everybody lights a candle and passes the light of Christ from one to, there's no substitute for some of these things. So I do encourage you to live into them. And everything will go wrong. We haven't done these rites for 3 years. We're going to forget half of the things that we're supposed to do. But it doesn't matter, because if you're reading the Passion narrative and you didn't get the point that through the roughest stuff, through all of the unexpected things, that's where God is. God is present in the good stuff too, the mountaintop moments, but they only come along so often. Most of the time we're in the cloudy valley trying to figure things out. Most of the time when we find God, and I think we know this from the last 2 years, perhaps better than we did prior to that, but most of the time when we find God, it's in the suffering and the challenges that life throws at us, or the world throws at us. It's Jesus that goes through his friends betraying him, denying him, abandoning him. It's Jesus that is put on the cross unjustly. It's only till the end. I love St. Luke's Gospel and the Passion for 2 reasons. One, there's a lot of characters in it, and they really highlight a lot of what it means to encounter Jesus. I think my favorite, perhaps all of our favorites, is the so-called good thief, who from the cross does 2 great things. The guy on the other side has been berating Jesus, and the good thief basically says, will you stop it? We're here because we deserve this punishment in this world, I guess. But Jesus, will you remember me at the end of everything when you come into your kingdom? And Jesus says, today you will be with me in paradise. I love those characters that pop up, the women that are wailing along the way that Jesus encounters. I also love the fact at the end of St. Luke's Gospel, suddenly it's like a light has gone on. And everybody that was against Jesus is now having some second thoughts and wondering, perhaps I was wrong about this. You notice that everybody leaves beating their chests at the end? And that the centurion this is the only, in Matthew and Mark, the centurion says, truly this is the Son of God. In Luke, he states the obvious. This guy was innocent. It's kind of like, what did we do? As we move through Holy Week and Easter, please do remember that God is present in all the messy stuff and all the most challenging stuff. Our prayer book has 2 prayers in the entire book that use the word instrument. One of them is the prayer for Tuesday in Holy Week, which is this coming Tuesday. I'll read it to you. O God, who by the passion of your blessed Son, you made an instrument of shameful death to be for us the means of life. Grant us so to glory in the cross of Christ that we may gladly suffer shame and loss for the sake of your Son, Jesus Christ. That's one of them. The other is probably a little more famous. Anybody know it? Lord, make me an instrument. I'm going to find it because I can't remember it off the top of my head. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we're born to eternal life. 2 things. Remember that God is always present in the worst possible moments. The God that suffers on the cross is the God that is present with us. 1. 2. Your calling as a Christian, all of us, is to try to live that out as an instrument of peace and God's love in a world where a lot of people are suffering. To be present as an instrument of God's grace in the darkest and most challenging times. So when you read through the Passion narrative, live through the rites of Holy Week, and begin to see people washing someone else's feet, or see somebody passing a light of Christ to someone else, or see somebody kneeling in sadness at the cross, remember that that's where God is. God is there in the worst moments. And do everything you can to make sure that when other people are doubting that you are a little light of Christ brightening up their darkness at that time. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please stand. The peace of the Lord be always with you.